Hey guys, welcome back to Man Time. This is part 2 of disassembly on the engine. Hopefully today we can get this intake manifold off, the exhaust, and disconnect it from the trans and get it completely pulled out of the car. I've got it parked under my hoist here, and yeah, that's the plan. Let's jump into it. Welcome to Man Time. Alright, just a quick recap here. We've got everything off the front of the engine. We got the radiator out. We got a lot of the electrical starting to get unplugged. You can pull the motor out with the main wiring on it here as long as it's disconnected. And off camera here I did just a few of those things. I disconnected the electrical stuff and some of these brackets and some of these wires that kind of go between things. And then the next step, well, once we get there, is to unbolt it from the trans. That's going to be right around the bell here, and we'll get this. First things, we'll get the starter pulled off, and it's also a good idea to remove some of this bracketry that's just kind of getting in everybody's way. Looks like most of my hoses are disconnected here, and let's see, I've disconnected that hose, hardline for a EGR, and got the upper motor mount. If I remember right, the hardest thing pulling this motor out was going to be those lower motor mounts. They're just really kind of wedged in between the frame. So I'll see if my memory serves correct. But all right, let's start with this bracket, and then this starter, and then the manifold, and then the exhaust headers. Let's do that. All right, I think I'm going to start with some of the harder stuff here. Getting some of these main bolts out that bolt the engine to the trans, and what you basically want to do here is start with the ones on top that you can see, and then for the rest of them you're going to have to be underneath the vehicle to start getting those out. So we'll get all of these off that we can, and then get underneath and get the rest of them. Okay, I think we're ready to get the head off of here. Not the head, but the intake manifold. Let's just see what's kind of holding me up here. Oh, sure. Yeah, there's a bolt back here that holds the wiring harness in place. Right, we got those bolts off of the wiring harness. Now, I think it should come away. What else are we hung up on here? Oh, got one. Yeah, these guys that work on this stuff, they must have the finger strength. Because I mean, are you unclipped here? I'm pushing down. Am I supposed to pull up? Why are you on here still? Yeah, you're pulled up, and you just continue to fight. I mean, I guess a screwdriver. There we go. Okay, well that gets us down to something a little bit more manageable. Let's see here. I guess we can go through and take all of our plugs out here while we're in here. Yeah, all this wiring Like I said, this wiring harness is new, or maybe I didn't say that. But one of the reasons why I want to fix this engine is just because I've got so much of the stuff done to it, you know, that I know is good, like this wiring harness. Okay, a couple more sensors over here. And they are just like every other plug on this thing, just about impossible to get out in every way. Okay, last one. Why? Okay, and then there's a ground down there, maybe. Okay, so we've still got our starter. It's got one bolt, I think it's a through bolt, into the engine, and then I've got a bracket still on up here, so let's get those off. And from under the vehicle here, just kind of laying on the ground, of course I've got my jack stands here. Right up here is our exhaust manifold bolts, and there's 3 of them, if I remember right. Up inside of there, and then I can't remember like the easiest way to get these engine mounts off of here. I know it was pretty difficult. I can't be sure, but I think I've got everything unbolted to the point where it should just start kind of falling apart here. Let's just try this theory. Supporting the load. Get it out of here. All right. I'm like right there with clearing those engine mounts. Yep. Alright, I think the engine mounts are free. Now I just kind of have to get it to come forward. And then I think I'm there. Yes. Okay. Got it. Alright. Up and away. Right. We managed to get it up out of here enough and clear everything. You can see some of these studs took a little bit of a beating coming up out of there. But yeah, we're clear enough now where I can get my tractor on it and not have too much fear of destroying anything. Yeah, you gotta love this horrendous fall sun in the south. Alright, so plan of action for the engine now. Take off our valve covers, our heads, and then take off our timing belt and all this stuff covering the front. Yeah, just start digging into it. 12-volt DeWalt and some sockets. Let's do it. Yeah, so here's our engine here, and I don't know about you, but this looks a little too loose for my level of comfort. And there seems to be something going on with maybe our tensioner pulley. Got plenty of tension up top here. Oh yeah. Okay. Well, we found the problem. Our tensioner pulley is completely not really doing its thing. And you can see here there is like black kind of, it's almost like powder, but I think that is the lubricant seeping out of that tensioner pulley. So I'm thinking what happened there is our tensioner pulley gave up and leaked out, seals let loose, and so it was just out of time. But we've got new pistons, we've got a new tensioner pulley, we've got a new timing belt and clutch and everything else, so we're just going to do everything. Whew, boy, I tell you what, these head bolts on these Subaru 2.5s are just basically the most difficult head bolts to get out of any vehicle I've ever worked on. I had a big cheater pipe to break them off, and it sounds like the bolt is just breaking as you're breaking it out of there. And when I go to reassemble it, you'll see why that is. There's about a 6-step process to tightening these head bolts, and they've you know how you've got a sequence that you tighten them up in. You have to do that 6 times, and you do it to like snug, and then you do it to 30 pounds, and then you do it to 90 pounds, and then you do like a half turn, and then a 3/4 turn, and then another half turn. And I'm not exaggerating, that's really what happens. So you're basically you're basically torquing what they call torque to yield, and that's how they've come up with their yield strength, is this ridiculous pattern. But yeah, you can see there, and I even used, see, this is the second time I've been in there, so I used some anti-seize on there, and you can still see the anti-seize, but it really didn't help. I mean, really tight. So anyways, that's what they look like. I replaced them out the last time. I think I'm just going to reuse them this time, even though they're torque to yield. Alright, one pro tip here, working on your Subaru heads, at least these ones that are on the newer 2.5 liter, they've got this deal on the side of it with this hydraulic valve, or basically it's just a solenoid valve that reroutes oil to the cam to advance, I guess, the timing. But on the inside here is a little screen, and when you're in here working on it, you just want to make sure to clean that. And actually, I'm probably just gonna throw the thing away, because it's so fine, and you can see it's got a bunch of dirt and kind of stuff on it. I mean, it's picking up something, but after you rebuild it, there's going to be like little pieces of rag and stuff floating around there. If this gets fouled up, it is a real chore to get in there, at least on the timing chain side, and clean it out. So I may just poke some bigger holes in it, so some of the stuff can flow through. It's not going to be too detrimental. I know I'm not just, you know, sending trash over my cam, but yeah, and I've got some little holes poked in it there already. That's good. I'll just leave it like that. But yeah, if it gets clogged up, it causes all kinds of error codes to go off, and like you can't rev above 4,000, and it's just a pain in the butt. So, word to the wise there. make sure you're taking the screen and looking at it. If not, just removing it from the system. I should probably mention a little bit of the theory on why I'm doing what I'm doing. Taking that off and everything. You don't have to do that unless you're going to get into your valves. Your valves are right here on the springs. You've got to get a spring compressor tool on there. Compress those springs. Release this. It's like a half washer valve spring seal. Well, these are the valve keepers, and it's a split washer type of configuration. But yeah, just looking at the valves here, you can see there's quite a bit of corrosion on there, and I already lapped them in once, but I'm just going to do it again, and that way I can clean them up real good, get the mating surfaces all cleaned up. One other thing, you don't want to go to moving your pistons or your crank. Did I say crank when I meant cam before? You know what time it is. And we're going to have to replace these pistons. So I'm going to need to be turning that crank to get the pistons to move in and out so I can get through these access plates. And so I'm going to take both the heads off. I'm going to start on this one as far as like doing the valves, but I'm going to take that other head off and stuff off camera here. And it's going to be the same as this one. So yeah, it was pretty simple. There is a bunch of star keys going along the inside here, and then the hex going along the outside, and then once you get all that stuff off, it just kind of pops off. I should be able to get my cam out right about now too. I don't think there's anything left holding that in, but it's sitting in there pretty snug, so we'll leave it for now. I think it's that seal holding it on there actually. Nope, there it goes. Yeah, and there's our cam. And there's no wear on the cam. You can see like the shiny spots on the cam. That's where stuff is rolling and moving on it, but there's no like actual noticeable wear as far as like a worn spot on it, other than the color change on it. So it still looks fine. Right, let's see what we got here. It's been a while since I've used this thing, but basically I have no earthly idea. Oh yeah, okay, so this particular one goes over and grabs into the spring, and if I remember right, it's got to go way down. There we go. Alright, and then, let's see here, it's going to compress the spring. And it's compressing the spring right here. And then what I should be able to do is maybe just give it a little pop from the bottom. Let's try that. Yes, okay, that worked. That released these half pins here. There those are. And I can't remember if they're magnetic or not. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Let's see if a magnet's going to work to get this thing out of here. Yes, it is a magnet. Okay. So then we release it. Now these you want to do one at a time. You don't want to just bust them all off of here. And while we're in here, we can measure our valve springs to make sure that they're still in tolerance as far as being the right length here. But now we can get down to our valves, and they just slide out from the bottom. and you can get a good look in here around your valve. And see, on mine, it's got a nice carbon ring all the way around it, and it's pretty carboned up all the way up and down here. But it does have a really nice seating surface there. So we'll just clean up the valves and clean up this entire chamber. It's got chunks of carbon in it, and all that chunks of carbon is coming down right on top of your pistons. And since we're putting new pistons in, it'd be pretty awful to have all that carbon coming down and ruining, you know, our fresh pistons. Just chunks of carbon. So we'll get them all cleaned up. We're back working on this other side here, and just let me show you what the torque of these head bolts look like coming off of here. You're going to have to get a big breaker bar. There's just no other way around it. Yeah, that wasn't anything breaking. That's just the sound of the bolt coming out. And they are just super tight. So you want to just hit every one of them, loosen them up a little bit. And this is with the anti-seize. Let me quick show you what I'm doing here to get these valves cleaned up. I mean, you can see there's really not that much kind of crust and gunk on them. I mean, there's quite a bit, really, but let me show you what I was doing here. So you spray them down with some cleaner, and then you can chuck them up in your drill. And what I've been using is my gasket scraper. Next part of the process is to lap the valve, and once you've got your valve seat all cleaned out in here, just getting a lot of the kind of gunk and crud out of there, and you've got your valve cleaned up for the most part. We're not trying to give it a spotless cleaning here. This isn't like a race car engine. It's got 230,000 miles on it. But what we are trying to do is just make sure it's as good as it can be. And when you go to lap your valves, I add a little oil, also some valve lapping compound here, right on that mating surface. And you can see that valve lapping compound there. And you can spin the valve in here. What it's doing there, it's just, you're basically machining those two surfaces together. Don't want to take off too much material. And then we want to inspect the surfaces after we get done here. So, wipe that off. Now that surface right there looks really nice and really smooth and really flat. And so does that one. It's got a couple little pits in it there, but for the most part I'm going to call that good. Like I said, you really don't want to take off too much material. You get into the valve too much there. Well, got some updates here for you. I've got the heads and valves rebuilt on one side. Before I started working on the other side, I just kind of wanted to change the pace. It's pretty tedious getting those valve springs off of there. Ooh, hot. And just note when you're getting your clutch off and about to replace your pistons here, you've got to come in from the back side and the front side of the motor to get those pistons out of there, because it's a split case. I guess you could split the case, but this is the way they say to do it, is to, there's two big plugs in the front. I can't reach them with a huge hex, so you're going to need some special tools for this. What was it here? Let's see, 14 millimeter big hex driver for the front. But in the back here, you're really going to need some special tools, because you've got a Phillips inspection plate here, and you have to have an impact driver to get those off of there with a little bit of heat. And another inspection panel here, and this one is a 4 millimeter hex, but I don't know what they use, like a Loctite on there or something to keep these on there. I started to round one of them out, and then I immediately applied heat and penetrating oil to try to get those loosened up out of there. But I've got 4 of them that are just completely rounded over. So they are going to need to be basically ground off, flush, get this panel off of there, and then try to back these screws out. So a little bit more difficult of a task, but let's see what's under this panel here while we're right here. Tools. Got a bunch of tools. Yeah, so through this inspection panel, and you're going to need it for 2 things. You're going to need it to get the lock ring off of the piston, and then you're going to need to get it off to drive the pin out of the opposite cylinder here. But this one here, and this is just a really poor design. Having Phillips head screws holding something on that keeps engine pressure. I mean, I realize why they're doing it. They're doing it to save space, but could have done it a little bit differently. Yeah, this is going to be fun. Alright, word to the wise there. Use caution getting these rear inspection panels off of there, because you might run into some problems, and you're definitely going to need some special tools. Alright, well, I was sulking around there for about an hour, because it's pretty disheartening when you get so close to the end of a project. And thinking about these bolts a little bit, and probably the best way to get them out of here is to drill them out. And the best way to do that is with a reversed left-hand type drill bit. Yeah, then you break it off, and you need to step up the size. No problem. Moving up to 3/16. Oh, that is glory days. That is exactly what you want to happen with a reverse drill bit. You get in there deep enough, and then it just kind of bites in, and you start drilling out. Oh, that is good. That is 5 for 5. And you see what happened there? I mean, the thing just kind of breaks and gives way. Pretty sweet. Okay, well, yeah, and on this side, it's actually got, that's weird. Yeah, it's actually got another one of the big Allens in there. Okay, let's take out this last Allen, and that's going to be all 4 of them. There we go. Yeah, that's what's inside of there. It's a big Allen head plug. No washer, no nothing. I guess probably some sealant on there. And that gives you direct access into the piston on either side here and into the side of it. Man, I got some chips to clean up now. Got to clean up my mating surfaces here to get this back installed when it's ready. But we got it out, and we didn't have to grind anything out. I had backup plan number 2, right? You've got these little back out twist type things. Hoping I wouldn't have to go there, and gladly I didn't. Left-hand drill, must have.